Morning.
All good? Welcome everyone to the January 16th Planning Board meeting. Happy New Year. The first thing we do every January is have our brief organizational meeting, basically elections. And the first two items are going to be by roll call. First one's elect a planning board chairman, term to expire on December 31st, 2024. I would like to remain your chairman. Would someone like to nominate me?
I'd be happy to nominate
Thank you.
McDonald as our chairman.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Marcus. So roll call. David?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, you can't vote for yourself. Aye.
Yes.
Aye. Aye.
You'd be.
Okay. Second, elect planning board deputy chairman, term to expire on December 31st, 2024. I'd like to nominate Marcus Kasich, who's been our deputy chairman for quite some time and is now experiencing the hot seat on his own. So I will nominate Marcus. So I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, roll call.
I roll call.
David?
Aye. Aye.
Julie, aye.
Aye.
Market doesn't want to do it after the election.
Okay, these are our standard vote. That first one was resolution 1 of 2024. The second was number 2 of 2024. The third of 2024 would be appoint Catherine Ryan as interim clerk of the planning board for fiscal year 2024 at the salary established by the 2023 Shelter Around Town budget. I make a motion to accept Catherine Ryan.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution 24 of 2024 is to appoint the Rayner Group as planning board engineer for fiscal year 2024. I make a motion to accept the Rayner Group. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Resolution number 5 of 2024 is to appoint Essex, Heifer, and Angel as the planning board counsel for the fiscal year 2024. I make a motion to accept EHA.
If I get to speak, second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
And number 6 of 2024 is to appoint the Shelter Island Reporter as planning board's official newspaper of record for the fiscal 2024. I make a motion to accept it as Shelter Island Reporter.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next thing is to review the minutes from December 19th, 2023. Seems like ages ago. We paid some bills. We had a public hearing for 6 Daniel Lord Road and 3 Borough Hall lot line adjustment. And we opened the Flowers wetland permit application and adjourned it, waiting for the CAC comments. Do you guys have any?
Jay, I'm sorry, there's talking in the audience, if we could just,
Hey, James?
sorry.
I'm sorry we just go through this. The Flowers Wetlands application, we adjourned it and opened it, adjourned it for the CAC comments. Anyone have any issues, comments? All good?
All good.
Good.
I make a motion to accept the December 19th, 2023 planning board minutes.
Second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We have 3 invoices. The first one, and I may go a little out of order because I have my own notes on my page, my own copy of the agenda. We have 2 invoices for the Rayner Group for December. The Rayner Group separates subdivision and site plan review from wetland permit. The subdivision section of their invoice, they reviewed the White subdivision, including a review of the work done to date and preparing a memo for us. There was also some follow-up conversation with the surveyor and the attorney, the White's attorney on that. That totaled 5.5 hours and $907.50. I always think Joe's time is valuable, well worth it. So I make, well, that's part one. Part two is the wetlands applications, reviewing 58 Westmoreland Drive, and the Michael applications and the drainage plan for 10 Cheekwood Avenue. That was 7 hours and 27.25 hours, totaling $1,196.25. The two together total $2,103.75. They're all needed, necessary, and I say Joe's time is valuable and well worth it. So I make a motion to accept the Rayner Group's invoices for December and $2,103.75.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Second invoice we have is for EHA. And it was a conversation with the planning board secretary, reviewing the White memo from the from engineering memo, preparing for and attending the planning board meeting, and miscellaneous conversation with the planning board secretary and board members. 3.9 hours. Totaled $1,462.50 less than municipal discount, which ended up being $1,096.87. Again, very, very helpful, well worth the time and money. So I make a motion to accept the EHA invoice for professional services rendered in December for $1,096.87. So I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the last is for the Times Review Media Group. These are the required publications of the public hearing notice. This was done for the Michaels application and the Stitch application, totaled $86.02. I make a motion to pay the Times Review Media Group's invoice of $86.02.
Second that.
Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We have 4 resolutions in front of us. First one was for the Bloom minor subdivision. And we've been talking about this one for quite some time. We have a extension request that mentions that the Shelter on Sand and Gravel will be installing an IA sanitary system in March. So they're finally moving ahead with the sanitary system, which is great. This will enable them to legalize the existing house and then proceed with the health department subdivision application, which runs concurrently with ours. So I'm glad to hear they're moving ahead. Resolution 7 of 2024 will extend their requirement to submit the final minor subdivision application to July 11th of 2024. Does anyone have any questions?
I do notice that the resolutions on the second page don't have the resolution numbers for 2023. We should make sure those are in there.
Before we,
Yeah, you're right.
That's one of the errors that you caught on.
It does. The second and third extensions, what those numbers were.
Do we have Beth on board? Hi, Beth. Can you hear us?
I'm here.
On page
hear me?
2, yes, thank you. On the Bloom extensions resolution,
Number 7.
page 2, there were missing some resolution numbers from last year. Can
Okay.
we adopt this and then infill them afterwards when we have the actual information in front of us?
Yes, you can just fill it, you can adopt it subject to putting in the correct resolution dates that are missing, or resolution numbers that are missing.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So I make a motion to accept resolution number 7 of 2024 for the Bloom minor subdivision, final subdivision application extension until July 11th, 2024, subject to infilling the correct resolution dates on page 2. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The next extension resolution has to deal with SH 29 West Neck LLC. We got a letter from Karen Hoag, the applicant's attorney. They are stuck trying to record the final documents with the county. The county's been very slow. And so this resolution would take them to March 1st, 2024. And we've been waiting long enough for this, so I think we should continue helping them out. They're stuck again at the county. So resolution number 8 of 2020, make a motion to accept resolution 8 of 2024 for SH 29 West Neck LLC, which extends their application deadline to March 1st, 2024.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Third extension resolution is for the White amended final subdivision plat, basically for their bond as they're putting in the roadway. Most of the work is done. They just have to get Nathan Corwin to show up and put in some monuments. Karen Hoag is the attorney of record on this and reached out, asked for extension request for an additional one per period. This would take them to March 1st of 2024. Same thing, they're so close to be done. I think we should pass this. So I make a motion to accept resolution number 9 of 2024 for the conditional final approval of the subdivision of Nelson White Estate, extending the deadline to March 1st of 2024. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the last resolution is to approve the lot line adjustment for 6 Daniel Lord Road and 3 Burl Hall Lane LLC. We had the public hearing last month. No one other than the applicant's attorney spoke to it. It all seems very straightforward and simple. Beth, is there anything we should know that is special about this lot line adjustment resolution? I don't know, Beth, we have you.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
I had a call from the applicant's attorney. I had one typo, and then when in the original draft, when I had referenced the properties where the gore of land was, it was the 6.
Yep.
Yeah, and then I changed the other property was an incorrect address, and it was supposed to just be an adjacent property. So that was the only change from the original draft board reviewed.
Okay, but otherwise the resolution is very straightforward.
Yes.
So I make a motion to accept resolution number 10 of 2024, approving the lot line adjustment for 6 Daniel Lord Road LLC and 3 Burl Hall Lane LLC.
I'll
Do I have a
second. I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
And just so everyone knows, there is a parallel health department application that's going on. And this resolution allows them to proceed with the various deeds that need to be and recording of those. But we will, as the planning board, not sign the final plat until we receive the health department approval and then the proof of deed recording.
Same as usual. We've done that before, right?
Yep.
Yes. Excellent.
We've made a mistake of not requiring that in the past.
Yeah. That's good.
Okay. So we have 3 public hearings tonight. First one is for Flower at 10 Cheekwood Avenue. We read the public notice last time, so I don't think it needs to be reread. And this is a continuation from last month. We did receive the Conservation Advisory Council's recommendations, and there are 7. First thing is relocate all new stairs to existing footprint. They note that the bulkhead is failing and needs repair or replacement. They want submitted at meeting full-size original drawings A2, 3, and A7, 9, and 10. Not exactly sure what that means, whether they were submitted or they're requesting for the submission. Number 4, all concrete shall be non-leaching type. Number 5, site visit was on 11/27 at 10:30 a.m. Ferry traffic made it difficult to visit site. All construction vehicle traffic should be coordinated with Shelter Island Heights and the North Ferry operations. Homeowner shall provide all traffic control officers. Number 6, roof leaders to be designed for expected 4-hour rain. Number 7, item 20 in wetlands application, where does soil removed from pilings go? And they vote 5-0 to approve with recommendations. I believe Matt Sherman's on board representing the flowers. And do you want to present to us?
Yes, and thank you very much. First, I'd like to apologize for not being there in person. The weather got the better of my flights coming up, so unfortunately, we've got to do this by Zoom.
Matt, can I hold you off for 1 second? There was one thing I didn't do. We did receive correspondence on this, 2 letters from the Shelter Island Heights Property Owners Corporation, one dated January 12th of 2024, and one dated September 15th of 2023. Okay, Matt, I'm sorry.
Okay, no worries. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Again, it's Matthew Sherman, Sherman Engineering and Consulting. I'm here representing the flowers. The property owner and the design architect are also on Zoom. If there's any questions that come up that I'm not able to answer or additional information that's required from either one of them, they're available to the board during the hearing. I've got a quick presentation I'd like to go over with the board. Let's see about sharing my if Christina or Catherine could get it so I could share my screen. Perfect.
You should be good.
Yep, it's coming up now. Okay. Okay, this site, just to give you a real brief history on what's going on here. There's been, this is down at the yacht club, or right next to the yacht club. There's a lot of flooding down in this area. It's pretty much the lowest point in the heights. We went through the ZBA the middle of last year and received ZBA variances for this same project and basically the same configuration that that the planning board is seeing it. The ZBA approved everything that is outside of the setbacks, and this property being in AA zone in the heights, you've got a 50-foot front yard setback, 30-foot side yard setbacks, And for the purposes of the rear yard, which is also the wetlands, we've got a 30-foot setback there as well. Our wetland setbacks on this property coming off of Deering Harbor are 75 feet, which basically is this arc that runs right through here and encompasses the vast majority of the building and about 2/3 of the property itself. And then you've got the 100-foot setback, which is this arc here over going closer to Cheekwood Avenue. As it currently exists, we've got 11 square feet of the house is in the 8 adjacent regulated area, that area between 75 feet and 100 feet from the wetlands boundary. And the whole entirety of the rest of the house, the other 2,720 square feet of the rest of the house is within the vegetated buffer. There's an existing deck on the water side of the house. There's 557 square feet is that deck. And then you've got a walkway on the left-hand side, a couple of stairs down, and a little walkway on the left-hand side, as well as one on the right-hand side. Those 2 steps and walkways together combined for 71 square feet. And what we're proposing to do, and I'll get to an elevation here so you can see how this new site plan was developed, but what we're proposing to do is raise this house up. Right now, it's right at grade. So we're going to pick the house up about 8 feet above grade. So now obviously we can't get into the house with the existing access that we have now. So what we're proposing is a series of stairs and landings in order to get up to get access into the house. Currently, this area right here is a covered front porch.
Excuse me,
That's
Matt, can I
Yeah.
interrupt you? It's David Austin. We can't see your pointer when you're saying this area or
Okay.
pointing at something. So just so you know, so
Okay, good. Hold
you
on.
may have to be
just a
more
second.
descriptive. Sorry. Thank you.
How about now?
There you go. Yeah.
All
Now we
right,
see
good.
it.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you, David. Okay, so this area here is the front porch, the current front porch. It's going to be enclosed into the living space of the house. And I'll show you that in a second with the proposed floor plans. And in doing so, we're moving the front door over to this side, getting it further away from the wetlands and getting it so that the stairs can go out into that adjacent regulated area. The design as we've got it now to give it a little bit more curb appeal is to have the stairs going in 2 directions so that we're coming on both sides of the entryway. So we've got 135 square foot of new steps within the vegetated buffer. We got 61 square feet of new steps within the adjacent regulated area. That's to get access into the house itself. The way the house is currently laid out as well, the garage door is here. We're going to be moving that, the entry into the underneath of the house for cars to the other side, 90 degrees. So coming straight up off of Cheekwood Avenue. So that brings this driveway entry here. On the left-hand side of the building, we're going to have a new electric meter that's got to be raised up to be above flood elevations. So we're going to need a new platform to get us up to that new electric meter. That platform is going to be about 42 square feet with the stairs and the platform. And then coming around to the back side of the house, to the water side, the deck still comes out the same distance as it was. However, we're asking to put in a new set of stairs that give us access up to that deck. And then this area here that was a walkway, we're asking to put a lift in there so that we can get coming in from grade, driving in, you can go from underneath the house to where this lift is. And anybody who doesn't have the mobility to get up the stairs can use the lift to come up and down into the living area of the house. This is the basic, this is just one of the drawings that the architect has prepared. This is the basic layout for the elevation, the section of how the new building is going to be configured. Our existing approximate grade is at about a 5-foot elevation right along here. That's current as it is now, it's as it will be in the future. The flood zone, because we're in a VE flood zone, requires us to have the lowest horizontal structural member to be at least 2 feet above our base flood elevation. And here our base flood elevation is going to be at an 8. So our base flood brings us to 10. So that's the absolute minimum we can have for our flood protection to comply with FEMA flood zone regulations. We're asking to go a little bit higher than that. We're asking to go up to 12'3". That extra couple of feet does a few different things. Number one, it enables them to get vehicles underneath the building so they can use it as a garage. They can park underneath there and they don't have to be out in the driveway. And then the other thing it does is it gives us a factor of safety. This came up at the CAC meeting. It's come up on other applications for docks and other things like that. Of raising it the absolute bare minimum just gives us enough to what we've got for today. It doesn't, if the flood zones get reevaluated in another couple of years, we could very well find ourselves in a situation where we're non-compliant again. So bringing it up a couple of extra feet enables us to have that double benefit, a little bit of extra safety for the building and also a usability underneath the building. One of the things that has come up as well, there were some questions about dewatering on the way that the foundation is designed. This is a pier and pile foundation design. So we've got the helical piles and then we've got the piers. As it's designed right now, the piers are coming down to an elevation of 0. Groundwater in this area is in anywhere from 1 foot to 3 foot elevation. So what we would end up doing is the architect would reevaluate the depth of these piers and adjust them so that we're not getting into groundwater. We can get right on top of groundwater, not worry about dewatering, not worry about pouring concrete in groundwater, things along those lines. So we'll have to adjust that to the actual conditions that we find once we pick that building up and we can dig directly underneath it. One of the reasons why this has come into question is the soils in most of this area are pretty good. They're nice sandy soils. We did a test hole up in the corner of the property, which I'll show you in just a second, which had some surprised us by having a fair amount of clay in them, which is very unusual for areas like this on the island, and also inconsistent with other test holes we've done in the immediate area. It's believed that that clay is a bit of an anomaly, and it's unfortunate because it's in the area that we've got for stormwater recharge, so it affected our stormwater design. However, once we pick this building up, get it on cribbing, start to do the work underneath it, we can get a better feel for what the actual soil and groundwater conditions are directly impacted by this work. Just real quick, going over the floor plans. This is the existing floor plan here. This is that covered porch we were talking about, and the existing garage with those garage doors on that right-hand side. So for the most part, the building is going to stay fairly consistent with what it is now. The main changes are the garage gets turned into a family room, and the kitchen, where it's in this area right here, it's going to get expanded into that what's now the covered porch, which is what moves that doorway over to the right-hand side. So there's not a whole lot of changes in there, makes it a little bit more livable, gives you a little bit more user-friendly layout, a little bit more living space, but for all intents and purposes, it remains fairly consistent. Excuse me, this is the stormwater plan I had just talked about and the test hole. So we came down elevation at about 4.5. We came down to that clay, which we found down to about 9 feet below grade, which was very unusual. Below that, brown fine sand, which is what we would expect to see in this area. Because of that clay, it kind of traps groundwater at a higher elevation. So in that area, groundwater is at an elevation of about 3 feet to 3.5 feet. So just over a foot below grade. So what that does is that requires us to have much more stormwater control containment structures because they can't be anywhere near as deep. So what we ended up doing is preparing this stormwater design plan. We're able to capture all of the stormwater from sections 1 and 2 of the roof and just let them come right over to these stormwater chambers. For the other section on the water side of the building, we just don't have the room to capture enough to contain 100% of the stormwater that's generated from this section of the roof, section number 3. Another impact on this design, because of that clay lens, is we wanted to design for a 4-inch rainfall. And it's not a 4-inch per hour rainfill. Nobody designs for that. It's a 4-inch over 24 hours. So the idea being is if you get enough rainfall over a 24-hour period, you want to be able to contain whatever that design unit is that you're looking at. Initially, we wanted a 4-inch. We were right at the limit. When we realized we couldn't go as deep with our leaching chambers, we had to dial it back to a 2-inch design, which is what's standard for the town. We were hoping to get a little bit better than standard. Unfortunately, the conditions on site just didn't allow that. We did a landscape plan. It basically having some minor landscaping around the building itself. We didn't want to make it too dense. We didn't want to make it so that if you do have storm waters flowing through and debris coming through in that storm water, we don't want to have something that would basically act like a net and capture debris that's flowing around. So it's not a very dense landscape plan. All of the designed elements are from the town's list of native species and recommended species for these kinds of properties. Here's our elevations. It's basically looking very similar to what's there now, just 8 feet higher. So it's been picked up into the air. We've got some new design elements on the roof to help break up the look of the building from the roadside. And this is something that had come up at the ZBA, and then also something that came up at the CAC meeting. One of the questions was asked of how is this going to look in relation to what else is going on around it? And it's very hard for people to picture in their head, what is this building going to look like if it's, higher, if it's up on piles or up on piers. So we use this at the ZBA as a comparison. The property right next door on Deering Harbor going up toward the top of the hill, a few years ago, they went through a relatively similar project where they took the existing house, they lifted it up, put it on piers, and they made it more compliant with FEMA flood zone regulations that were in place at that time. So basically, that house is at a roof elevation, a ridge line of 27 feet is the elevation above zero, basically mean sea level. We're going to be asking for 28 feet. We're bringing our finished floor up significantly more than they did, but they had a significantly steeper pitched roof. So what they traded off on a steeper roof for a lower floor, we're asking for a higher floor and a shallower roof, bringing that floor up again so that we could have that distance below and have that extra factor of safety for not getting flooding and damage during a heavy storm event. These photos are from this past weekend. They kind of unfortunately illustrate the point fairly well as to the problems at this site. This is that building next door that I was just talking about, who was raised up. So we're going to be a foot higher than that ridge line is right now. This is again looking out into the harbor. And another one looking out into the harbor. That's the yacht club's boathouse is right there in the distance. But this is these are very similar to the same photographs we showed during the ZBA hearing earlier this year. So these events unfortunately are becoming they're not super common, but they're common enough now that it's not a surprise anymore. Used to you'd see this happen and you couldn't imagine where's this coming from. It was only during significant nor'easters or hurricanes. Now it's if it happens, it's it's unfortunately not as surprising as it once was. So that's what I have as far as my presentation is concerned. If I don't know if the board has direct questions for me, or if you've got questions for the property owner, be more than happy to answer any questions.
Matt, this is Julia.
Yes.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
hey, Julie.
Good. Can you just go over again? So you're saying that when you did the test hole approximately at 9 feet, you discovered the clay, and so you're saying that there are some scenarios that you can anticipate happening, but you don't quite know what's going to happen until you get there. Is that my understanding of what you're saying?
That's exactly right. The in soils in soil engineering and soil mechanics, when you're doing a test hole, it's a running joke that you know what's happening at that spot, but you just took all the dirt out of that spot, so now you don't know what's going on. And the reason being is the soils on a site or in a given area can fluctuate significantly by going 15 feet one direction, 30 feet the other. In this case, 100 feet away, we had soils that were pure, beautiful sand. And then here, where we were looking to do the, where we did the test hole, because that's where we're looking to do the stormwater control, we had clay. And we didn't have clay starting at 9 feet. We had clay from just below the surface to 9 feet below the surface. So like a 9-foot blob of clay in that area.
And then sand after that, right?
And then good sand after that. Exactly. That's exactly right.
So I guess to help me envision here, what are some scenarios that could play out? Could you give me at least like 2 scenarios that, you go in, what could possibly happen here?
I'm not sure I understand the question. The way that the clay could impact this project is when we pick the house up off of the existing foundation, take the crawl space out of there, get it up on its cribbing, and start digging for the piers and the helical piles. If that clay lens has extended so it's also underneath the building, the only impact that could really have is that the groundwater may be a little bit higher in that area than we anticipate, in which case the bottom of those piers won't be able to go as deep. If the groundwater, I'll give you a scenario of if let's assume the groundwater is at 1 foot elevation, which is what we expect. Then we could put the bottom of that pier just above 1 foot and we won't have to worry about it being in groundwater. If there's clay in that area, so the groundwater is actually at 3 feet, the bottom of the pier can go, it's going to be 2 feet less into the ground because it can only go down to 3 feet instead of going down to 1 foot. That's really what the impact would end up being. We don't want to dewater, and we don't want to put the piers, the concrete, into groundwater. So basically what it is if there's clay in that area, clay holds the water. The more chance of clay, the higher chance of groundwater. So the depth of that groundwater is going to be impacted by whether there's clay there or not. The depth of the groundwater then impacts the depth that we can do the piers at. So it doesn't change the overall design. The footprint stays the same. The number of piers stay the same. All of that stays the same. The only thing that changes is what is the depth that that pier stops and the helical pile starts. That's basically what's impacted by it.
Okay, that was my question.
Okay,
So
good,
got it.
good.
On the drawing, it looks like you got McDonald Geoscience to do the test hole.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
usually does it for the health department purposes. I've worked with McDonald for a long time. But he only goes down to 17 feet. How deep did he go on this one?
This one he did. He went to 17 feet. Yeah.
17 feet. So you don't really know it's not like a real boring test to see what the ground pressures are, the materials are. You didn't go to 50 feet. You didn't go to 35 feet.
Right.
So how do you know that the piles themselves, the helical piles, are going to have enough support if you've experienced clay?
Okay, that's I'm going to pass that over to Gabby, who's the design architect and is designing the footings and designing the piers and the helical piles. Gabby, if you could introduce yourself, and I'll mute and step into the background.
Great. Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. Thank you for hearing our application this evening. Could everyone hear me?
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you. To answer that question, we've elevated a couple hundred homes in my career. And as Matt stipulated earlier, That's an excellent question, Chairman. We typically go down anywhere between 20 and 30 feet. So the piles that we're proposing, we try to get an ultimate of 27.5 ton. So we max the tonnage of the piles to an adequate pressure that we're looking for. So unfortunately, what ends up happening is if we come to a situation where we go down to 20 feet or 25 feet, and we're still not fetching up that good soil that we're looking for, unfortunately, we would have to just put some extensions and leads and continue going down until we get that 27.5 ton ultimate factor that we're looking for. Furthermore, when you have a pile, and you have a footing, the pile is really the footing. So the structural stability of the piers that we're proposing are strictly to assist in the diaphragm, lateral control, and the deflection of that point load that's going down to that pile. So in several events in my past, when we go down and we start the exploratory excavation, the building is suspended up, what ends up happening is we could place that footing about 6 inches or 8 inches. We like to go about a foot below the average grade, so it doesn't cause slurry events where if water comes, it exposes the concrete. But to answer the question is, if we came into that type of scenario, the only thing that would happen is cost would be a factor for my clients, where the lead extensions of 5 feet would just continually hit on top of the pile lead on the top. And then at the end, when we hit that ultimate, we would just cap it, put the pile cap, and put the footing right on top of that.
Would there be value in getting additional borings to better understand the soil and soil borings that go below 17 feet?
No, not really, because as Matt said earlier, and we've done thousands of soil exploratory things where even if we went to the adjacent side, let's say in the back, and we fetched up, we went down 25 feet, I've seen scenarios where 8 feet away, it differentiates so much. So I don't want to say game, but the angle that we take is when the piles, we do the first test, that'll give us the true resistance and the torque we're looking for. So at the end of the day, whatever we're trying to accomplish with respect to the tonnage that we're going to ultimately gain, that would be done by the pile. So it's a cost factor. I've inspected the site several times. The floors are level. They do have a foundation system. For the most part, it is dry. There's a lot of measures that they've taken with pumps and all kinds of other techniques. However, with the rising waters, I don't think it would make a difference, because if we weren't doing piles, then I would agree with that. I would say, you know what, we can widen the footing. We can take different measures if we were going to not have the piles. But since we are having the piles, that is like a game changer with this project.
Have you evaluated making the piers not so deep? Existing elevations around 5 feet, and you're going down 5 feet with them. Is there a reason you're not making them 3 feet deep or 4 feet deep? What's the reason to go all the way right down to zero elevation groundwater when we know groundwater is at least a foot high in that area?
Yeah, so again, I think that when, for the sake of the foundation, the conversation typically with planning boards, zoning boards, architectural, with the heights, not that we don't pay attention to it. However, again, once we start the excavation and exploratory process, it could potentially go down 2 feet. I like to set the example from the average grade to a minimum of 3 if we can. It doesn't make a difference really. If we went down to 3 feet, it's not going to change the structural stability of the building. We could clearly go down to 2 feet, and if soils if we start hitting water and we don't want to fetch up more debris or any granular type of strata, we would just start the pile there. So we don't necessarily have to go down the 5 feet.
This is for Matt or Gabby. We, as a planning board, are not allowed to permit further than 100 square foot of expansion within the vegetative buffer. This has come up on a prior application just a few months ago, where our attorney and the town attorney at the time were polled, and they likewise interpreted the wetlands code that we really have a minimal amount of wiggle room to permit more than the 100 square foot exemption in the, of additional coverage in the vegetative buffer. Have you guys considered any way of reducing what seems to be, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, somewhere about 325 to that 100 square feet?
If I could address that real quick. I looked at that as well, and I was watching that previous application that you're referring to, and that came to my mind as well as we were going through this. It was after we'd gotten through, I don't remember if it was at the end of the ZBA, or at least that process was well underway. And so I started looking at it and looking at some old projects and things like that. And if I could share my screen again, I've got some information that I put together. Because not that I want to argue with the planning board's attorney or the town attorney, but I do have a slightly different take, believe it or not. Let's see. Hold on, it's loading up. Okay. I think my Zoom, okay, hold on.
He's fine. Give him a couple minutes.
Text.
I'm sure he knows. Yeah, he's dropped off. Yeah. Hello again.
I'm back, and I don't know where it cut off, but I was saying some brilliant stuff. Yeah, let me pull this up here. I'm going to try and share my screen real quick.
There, guys.
Okay, so and I'm not going to go into too much detail here because I don't want, we've got a long evening ahead of us, I believe. But chapter 129.2, it says when is a permit required there, and it gives you a very good table. And on that table, before it gets into it, it gives us a couple of different answers to each one of the questions that shows up, like what are you allowed and not allowed to do? Excuse me. And the first one, it says no. So if in that table it said the answer is no, it says the activity is not allowed. However, applications can be processed in consideration of differences between town law and DEC law. That's one of the answers. The other answer is no permit required, meaning have at it. You don't need a wetlands permit. Or a permit required. So you're allowed to do what it is you're asking to do. You just have to get a permit to do it. And then there's another thing that has the for the causeway permit. So let's go on to the next page. So on the next page, types of activities, and there's a number of different things. This is a simplified version of the table. So I just took the section for existing structures on a lot with a bulkhead, which is what applies here. For areas within the vegetative buffer, that 0 to 75 foot mark, repair, no permit required. Reconstruction with no expansion, that neither of those apply. Reconstruction with expansion upward within permit within footprint, that applies to the building itself. You're allowed to do it, you just have to get a permit required. This is the one that gets us for the decks. Reconstruction with expansion beyond footprint, oh, I'm sorry, not that one, because that's further away, that doesn't apply, but it's new construction outside of footprint is the second one from the bottom. It says no, you're not allowed to do that within the vegetative buffer. Within the adjacent vegetative buffer, you need to get a permit to make it happen. However, in the definition, no is no activity allowed. However, it does give you it gives you a safety valve. So in applications that can be processed, if there's differences between town law and DEC law, if all other remedies have been exhausted and DEC approval or letter of non-jurisdiction is applicable. In this case, we have a DEC letter of non-jurisdiction and there is no other alternative to get to these second floor areas. And there's a couple of others that, obviously this is new with the planning board. Several other projects that were in front of the town board over the years where they allowed new construction within the vegetative buffer. This is one from July of 2016 out on Deering Harbor. On the right-hand side, let me see if I can get my pointer going.
I agree with you, Matt. I can cite a few too. It's just that we have to rely on our attorneys and the town attorney. And when we told them about that same clause, which I would kind of agree with you, that I think that the planning board should have some flexibility for extreme cases. But we were stifled. We were told no. And we had to tell this other applicant no, and that's how we've been operating to date. This may come up and we may be able to get the town board to re-review it, but right now I think we're taking a stance.
I am, yeah.
Yeah, we had the same,
We discussed that.
we had the same issue before with the previous where we went back and said, come up with a way of staying in the same footprint. And what they did is they moved something and moved things around so they could stay in the footprint.
Right, okay.
Because there is, so you said it's the,
I would like to have some flexibility to help real hardship cases out. And this, what I would say is a pretty hardship case.
but I think there are alternatives because basically you have the footprint of the house. If you reduce the footprint, if you reduce the living area of the house to stay within the same envelope, you could have what you want. What you're trying to do is go beyond the envelope of the current house, which is not allowed by the,
Hey, Matt,
Yeah, I'm here.
it varies on,
Did you hear?
Matt, you hear that?
Yeah, I can hear you.
How much
I can hear you.
expansion,
Yeah.
how much expansion are you asking for?
Hold on just a second, let me get,
Make sure you heard.
which we haven't seen before. Before we used to see like a delta where we showed the actual deltas between it, and we're not seeing that quite as clearly on this application.
yeah, absolutely. Let me, can you guys hear me now? Or are we having
Yeah,
technical
yeah,
difficulties
yeah.
still? Okay, all right, good. The difference is, let's see, give me just a quick second. And also, and when I'm done looking at this, Gabby and I and the property owner had gotten together with a couple of different alternatives as well. We can't get it down to zero. It's just, without coming in from underneath the building, which I don't see how that makes any sense. We can't get it down to zero. However, what we're talking about,
100.
We're not asking for zero.
We have flexibility of allowing 100 square feet. That's it. So if you can get it down to less than 100, that's something we could consider as an alternative.
okay, all right, okay. The, the plan is we're looking at it right now. We're adding, let's see, about 100, give or take 100 square feet of rear deck, another 73 for the stairs, that's 173. Another 140, 270, 310. Just running real quick numbers off the top of my head, we're somewhere around 450 square feet between the deck in the rear, the steps in the front, the step for the electric meter, all of those different things. That's
So Matt, just what's in the vegetative buffer, we have the ability to permit in the adjacent regulated area.
That's not a problem.
As you presented up front, you said approximately 135 feet for the new steps in the new front steps, of which 135 feet are in the vegetative buffer. You said approximately 42 square feet for the electrical meter platform is in the vegetative buffer. You didn't mention what the expansion in the vegetative buffer is for the back deck and the steps.
73 and
73 and 100, is that it?
73 and 104.
Yeah, we were 557 to
661,
661, yeah.
104, and 73 for the deck, the stairs, according to this plan.
So just under 180. I'm going to show you, I had come up with another plan which is not preferred, but if it's a difference between getting denied and approved, where we've got a 60-foot landing on the front of the building within the vegetative buffer, 42 square feet for the steps for the electric meter. The rear deck stays the same, with the exception of we remove 21 square feet of steps and walkway from the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, like where that elevator was, the lift, there's a 50-foot walkway that would then be converted to a stairway. So that 50 feet would go from walkway to stairway. I don't know if you would consider that new construction or modified construction. But we would have, so 60, 42, 50 minus 21.
Closer.
Yeah,
That's
we're
That's 150.
In the back.
100
gets us
plus
down to like
42
130.
plus. It's 102 plus 50, it's 152.
Is there any other way to get to the electric meter?
It's got to be up above flood zone. So, there really isn't. I don't know. You could put it right next to the front door, I guess.
Or put it in the back deck or something, so it's not on the side, it's like, so you have another way of getting up to it. I'm not sure what legal requirements are. Just trying to think out of the box.
No, I'm
This is in line with what we discussed. when we
Yeah,
looked at the
exactly.
site. My concern was the back of the property and expansion. So
Yeah.
if there's some way that.
Well, it's all within the 75 foot. I mean, pretty
Right,
much.
but to keep it down, to keep it lower than it is right now.
Yeah.
I think it can be done. But I'd also like to see this mock-up. I mean, similar to.
Did you
happen to put these in like a drawing format, these other?
I
these
did, and
alternatives?
actually I had a bunch of them printed up to bring up with me, and I'm going to share my screen again. Hopefully I don't have another technical issue with it, but I'll show you on the screen.
Pat, while you do that, if I can interject,
Please.
so I respect the board's comments. In my history of doing elevations, and I understand the bylaws and the codes, et cetera, I could understand that argument. I truly do, because it's written in the code and we do respect it. However, the concession would be that we're not within that buffer and adding livable square footage. It's clearly ingress and egress. And what
That's not the point.
That's not the point. On the last application, which unfortunately you're not familiar with, the applicant wanted to move a small wooden staircase off the side of the house. And we unfortunately said, no. We were told, basically the building department, that would be considered new construction, even if it was moved. And so that's the message we were getting.
Yes, sir. So
Yeah.
this rendition you're going to see that Matt is putting up, I'm actually glad we did this. So we just kept it very simple, and we're trying to, juggle a few different angles here. We did, I believe, have some conversation with the Heights, and if I'm not mistaken, they were okay with our proposal with pulling up that front portion and just only doing one stair. It's a designer, and I'm sure, you guys have a lot of experience too. Some of you guys are design professionals. We try to please all aspects, architecturally, zoning, setbacks, buffers, et cetera. So this rendition that Matt's going to pull up, it's really like a bare minimum where we're showing, can everybody see this?
Yeah.
You want to interject? You want to go for it, Matt?
Yeah, real quick, just let me get my pointer going.
Yeah, Matt, could you put the red one back? Red cursor?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up. Yep. Actually, I might not be able to, because I think that's what was crashing my system a couple of times.
You can see your cursor.
You can see that one? Okay.
Yes.
So this is, again, 75-foot wetland setback.
Yep.
This is the least of our preferred options, but this is the landing for the front door. 60 square feet is within the vegetative buffer. We come out 61 square feet in the adjacent regulated area. We still have the 42 square feet for the electric meter. This holds the same rear deck as what's there right now, just 8 feet higher. And then we convert what's that existing walkway. It's, pavered, slate, stepping stones type of thing. It converts that into a staircase. So we go from stepping stones to stairs, 50 square feet either way. And then this here, there's 21 square feet of steps and stepping stones that go away. So we're adding 60 square foot landing here, landing and steps, 42 square foot steps and landing for the electric meter. So 102 square feet. We're taking away 21. So we're coming down to 81. And the deck gets rebuilt as it currently exists, just higher up. And the stepping stones walkway here turns into a stair.
Matt, are those stepping stones like a concrete slab walkway, or are they just paver set in dirt?
Gabby or Lisa, can you chime in on that? I think that they're, I can't think of off the top of my head exactly what the construction is on those.
If I remember.
They're just pieces of slate.
Yeah, there's pavers and dirt.
They're
I
not
remember. We have pictures.
on top of the dirt. It's not really set in too deep.
Can you see
So
that?
it's not more substantial.
Yeah. The stairs would be permeable, I assume.
Yes, yeah, it would all be, wood deck with, gap between the boards so that you don't have any, ponding of water or anything like that, yeah.
Yeah.
So this option, we came up as option C 1.1, which then, I was doing everything I could to try and get it to where we needed it to be. And, it basically shaves everything. It shaves off the fat, all the fat off of it.
And then the only other wood thing would be to reduce the size of the existing deck to compensate for the 100 square feet, which I'm sure you guys don't want to do.
But that doesn't work with that. It's 100 feet of new construction. I don't think you can take away and add. Right?
So this is a discussion that we've had in the past, and I've had with Reed,
Yeah.
where I've always interpreted the 100 square feet. If you remove 30 feet, then you have 30 feet to rebuild.
That's right.
I've had this.
It's poorly written in the code.
I've had this conversation with the town attorney and others. The one pushback we got was from the building department saying we've not categorized the use of documented the use of the 100 square foot exemption since 2000. So we don't feel comfortable accepting the add in the bad. Though I do have it even from previous building inspectors in writing and previous town attorneys in writing that it's a tradable.
It seems though with this current recommendation, it's a 2-foot difference, right? You're at 1642 currently with what is being in this new proposal. It's 102 square feet, correct?
No, it's
So what is the new one? The one he just showed us.
60, 42, and 50. So that's 152.
Where's the 50?
So 50 is the steps in the.
Oh, I was wondering, do the stairs count because are they permeable?
Well, that could be considered.
Could they be just-
Front could be considered permeable. I feel really sorry for the previous applicant. I would agree that we have flexibility, but
Yeah.
we didn't allow the
You're right.
previous
Right.
applicant even this.
We would be setting a bad precedent.
Yeah. You'd have to put the stair, basically you have to remove it off the deck. They already have stairs up.
Or we can possibly propose putting the stair within the deck,
That's what I'm saying.
That's what I was thinking about.
Yeah.
within the deck footprint.
And that's something that the Conservation Advisory Council requested.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems like the only other option. Because then you're at 102, which probably could be considered.
Yeah, they had said to keep the stairs to existing footprint.
Yeah, at 102, that's de minimis, 104, whatever, whatever it comes to. I would, if you guys are willing to do that, I think, I look around here and I think there's consensus that we
Yeah,
would.
that's the
be
only
willing
problem I
to-
got.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The only other thing that then I'll bring up to Matt and whoever wants to answer this is that they indicated the bulkhead is failing.
yeah.
And what did you guys see? I know David and Julia, you went and saw it. What was it? Do you,
I'm not a bulkhead expert, so I'd say it wasn't in great condition, for sure. It's definitely been.
is there
Yeah, I
any
just-
plan to replace the bulkhead with this project? It seems like it would make sense to do it while this construction, the whole place is being torn up once.
Yeah, Lisa, I'm sorry, did we?
No,
we
go ahead, Kevin.
We had someone look at that bulkhead, correct? And they said it was structurally sound? Do we
Yeah,
have?
I actually sent the email to you and to Gabby and to the Heights. I had it examined right after the storm. I guess it was Sunday or Monday. Is anyone from the Heights there that has a copy of that letter, maybe?
Did we get that? I don't know.
It wasn't sent to the planning board. Could you get it sent to the planning board directly?
I have yours, I have the other one.
Yeah, I emailed a copy of the letter to the Heights and to Matt and to Gabby. Don't know if that, I assume that, let me see what they have.
Somebody gave it.
If you could either, or have Matt send it directly to the planning board, that would be appreciated. We can look at this now, but we'll need to get an actual direct.
It's from Heaney Marine Construction.
I usually send all my correspondence to Matt and then he forwards it to you, but I didn't know.
Yeah. It's okay. He's been busy not flying.
I mean, I just wanted to add that when David and I went there, I did have in my notes that it didn't come up in our discussion,
Thank you.
but we said something to the effect of, we were there doing our part for the
Yeah,
wetlands,
exactly.
and that if they were going to do something.
It would have to go through it.
DEC.
It'd have to go through a process anyway.
But the same thing what you said, if we're gonna dig up all this stuff.
We're gonna dig it up.
Yeah.
And
Might as
we mentioned it on, was it Brienza? And they came back.
Yes,
and
Brianza was what said they were
And
gonna
they
do.
took, they put it as part of their application. There have been other applications in the past that we've made that suggestion.
Yeah, I think it's worthwhile as a recommendation. If we could do it all in one bow, it would probably be more efficient.
And based on the recent
planning board
storms
side.
and the rain, and we've all experienced this.
But it would still have to go through, doesn't it go through a different permitting process to do?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so
It
they'd have to go through that process anyway.
Yeah.
But we could pre-approve something, I guess. I'm not sure how that works.
Well, they don't come to us for bulkheads at all.
Okay, so no.
And I know this bulkhead has had work done in the past. Familiar with it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's outside of our purview.
James, you're still in the WMAC, right?
Yes.
How does the WMAC review bulkheads that are old or failing?
Replace the, sign in place. Usually if it's a wood bulkhead, it would be a vinyl substitute.
Understood. And that was done, the yacht club did their whole extension right up to it. The yacht club even put in a return because,
Generally. you
This
do
one
that
was-
if the-
this
if
one
the
was
big
failing.
bulkhead is
Yeah.
questionable.
but there's nothing the WMAC has authority to state replacement.
WMAC, if it's a previously hardened shoreline and the thing is failing, we generally approve its reconstruction.
But there's nothing you can do to mandate it, so to speak.
If it's failing and it's causing issues to the adjacent properties, there's a condemnation process that the town can,
Yeah.
enter into. We as a committee have not, demanded anybody
Okay.
replace a bulkhead.
And also the CAC mentioned it. And
The CAC mentioned
The
it. you
CAC
guys-
is an advisory board. They mentioned lots of things that are outside their purview, right?
Yeah.
It's really like
No,
We do.
but we saw it. I mean, I can't deny what I'm saying.
Oh, no, I know, but it's for the board, the town board.
We have two other.
Did we take pictures?
We have-
Or-
Two other
Yeah.
public hearings. What do you guys want to do? Want to keep this open until we get updated plans?
Yeah, that would be my recommendation. And I did have one last question. I'm sorry, I just want to get clarity. You mentioned, Matt, when you were having the conversation about the taking care of all the runoff. You talked about 2 feet of rain, you talked about the backside, and you mentioned the words I heard with that the back runoff was inadequate, or it wasn't going to be able to be adequate, or should not be able to handle it. And that might have been a misspeak, so I just want to make sure our mishearing could be
No,
either.
that's fine, because I have the same thing
Yeah.
about the 4-inch versus the.
Yeah, well, you said basically you did all the stuff in the front so you could handle all that, and then the backside, I swear it sounded like you said it would not be able to handle. And I'm sure if that means the 2 feet or the 4 feet or what.
2 inches.
Right, yeah, I'll clarify. And you're partly correct.
Okay.
What we're designing for is the 2-inch rainfall.
Yeah.
On the front side, the front 3/4 of the roof area, which is what we're capturing from, we can
Yep.
handle the full 2-inch rainfall. On the rear side, that last quarter of the roof area, we just don't have the room, the physical space to put enough drainage to handle the full 2 inches of rainfall. So what we would end up doing is capturing what ends up being about a third of that rainfall. That's all the area we can, all the space we've got for storm drainage. What would end up happening?
Based on the assumption that there's clay in that area too.
That's correct. If there's not clay in that area, and we can't tell until we get, still we move the deck, because that's basically where the storm drainage is going. If we can get a little bit deeper leaching pools in there or leaching chambers, then I can do it. I can handle the 2-inch rainfall. I'm going under worst case assumption at this
Yeah.
point. So we capture a third of the stormwater from that portion of the roof. Keep in mind, right now, we're catching none of the stormwater from that portion of the roof. So we're getting better by 33%. If roof runoff, as it comes off the roof, it goes into the chambers. If it fills up the chambers, it's going to spill into the soils around it. Keep in mind that when we design these things, we design them to hold 100% of what's going in there. What actually happens is, as water's coming in, it's also filtering out at the same time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the reality isn't that yet you truly have to hold the 100% of that volume. But that's what we're designing to. Again, we're designing to the worst case scenario.
Then can I just add that the Heights in their letter, I think in regards to that, if I understand your letter correctly, Stella, Lori, was that you're saying if it's not adequate, what he's proposing, that's what you meant in your letter?
Yeah.
That you would like them to be held to that, to make sure it is remedied if it creates any hazard for your properties, right?
Can I?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah.
saying, I noted that what he
Oh, yeah.
says.
Please speak.
So it's Stella Lagutis from the Shelter Island Heights Property Owners Corp. And really what we meant there is it's a challenging location.
100%.
So we totally get that you might not be able to design for perfection. So what we were trying to reserve is, let's see how it goes. And if we still have an issue, we'd like to be able to go back and revisit it and see if there are any other alternatives with the homeowner. But that's really, we understand that it's a very difficult topography there.
I think we're going to have to allow them to design to their best standards.
Yeah.
If they have problems down the road, that's long past us.
Yeah.
And the town's involvement, that would
Yeah.
be between you two, I think.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair, but that is exactly what we're going for.
And I'm assuming, Matt, that you have no viable alternative at this time, just given the space.
We're
Yeah.
making the best of the situation as,
Yeah.
as is clear. And
Yeah.
the property owner is more than willing to work with the Heights. If there's stormwater that's coming off of this property onto the Heights roadway, just as if it was going the opposite way, they'd be
Yeah.
more than willing to work with the Heights on, mitigating problems, whichever direction they're coming from or headed to. Yeah.
Anyway,
So
okay.
Can I just?
Understood. Good. Thank you for, I want to make sure I heard that correctly. So thank you.
So I think, and because we have other applications, public hearings, we're not going to close this. So I make a
Can I just
motion.
ask one
Wait,
question? I'm
Ian,
sorry.
Ian,
Yeah, I'm
just,
sorry. Can I just interject one last final question?
And then
So the reason why, just so I'm clear on the design, we're leaving this open is because we're exceeding that square footage. But what if we went on record tonight and said that we would incorporate that rear stair onto the deck and eliminate that square footage to resolve that issue? Would that be able to be passed this evening?
No, we'd have to see the final plans.
So basically, we would just be incorporating the stair within the deck. That, it's a very simple design. It's not gonna be a crazy change to it. So I'm just wondering, instead of waiting for another couple of weeks, and I mean, I'm just, pleading with the board, because, we just want to get the ball rolling. My clients' parents are very old, and we just want to try to see this through to get the shovel in the sand here.
If you want to take that stance, I have no problem closing the hearing. If the drawings don't meet our expectations, we're going to have to have you reopen, start over. The other thing is, we're not going to be discussing it tonight because we're waiting for materials to come in. So it might benefit you just to leave it open until next time, but we'll leave it that termination to you, I think. I'm sorry, Beth,
Ian, yeah, you still have to also open it up to the public to see
Yeah.
if there's anybody who has comments.
On the revised
And,
plans. Yeah, so we have to leave it open. Because the public has to have the opportunity.
yeah, I think, Beth, you're advising to leave it open, right?
Well, you also have to, you haven't allowed offered to the public to speak
Okay.
yet for tonight.
Would
That
anyone
was the
here
first thing.
like to, in the audience, speak? We have your letters of support.
Leaving it open.
Well, I'm being advised by my attorney to, you guys making a statement, or
It's very quick, very quick.
if we have we know how to read, and we have your letters of, so
Yeah,
yes,
that's-
please, if it's something new, please add it,
Reiterate that.
not reiterate what you have here already.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna reiterate that. The only,
Could you state your?
hi, Lori Beard Raymond, I'm the manager for Shelter Island Heights Property Owners Corporation. And the only thing I'd like to add is, the architect and the owner did share the alternate designs with us, which were reviewed by our architectural committee and our property and roads. And we are okay with the original as well as the alternative that was presented to you that you just saw
Let's hope.
this evening. So we did look at that. So we
That's
started
helpful.
with that. And I think everything else you've already talked about. Yep. Just consider the recommendations in our letter. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone on Zoom would like to make some comments? Okay, I don't see any raised hands, so with that, I think it'd be best to adjourn this to our next meeting, which is going to be on Tuesday, February 13th at 7 PM. I make a motion to adjourn them. Second. For that date. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Next public hearing is for Michael at 2 Bay Avenue. Catherine, did you want to read the public notice, or?
Notice is hereby given that the following hearings will be held by the Shelter Island Planning Board on the 16th day of January 2024, in person at the Shelter Island Town Hall, 38 North Ferry Road, Shelter Island, New York. Applications are scheduled to begin at 7 PM or soon thereafter. A public hearing regarding an application for a wetlands permit by William and Eileen Michael. Property, which is the subject of the application, is located at 2 Bay Avenue, Shelter Island, New York. The applicants are requesting a wetlands permit as required pursuant to Wetlands Code 129-2 to renovate an existing single-family residence, construct an addition, replace and expand existing stairs, add new stairs, add bulkheaded basement entrance, convert existing sunroom to conditioned space with new foundation below and roof expansion upwards. Construct new pool with patio, new habitable accessory structure with basement, and a new well and septic system. Applicants are also requesting a wetlands permit as required pursuant to Wetlands Code 129-2 to replace an asphalt driveway with permeable driveway, demolish existing walkway with stairs, and add new 1,000-gallon underground turbo class type 2.
Thank you. We have comments from the Conservation Advisory Council. They advise, number one, to deny the wetlands permit since the work indicated in Town of Shelter Island notice of disapproval date 12/4/2023 has already been done without a valid permit. I do not know that that's actually the case. I'm sure the building department has issued a permit for the work that is ongoing. Number two, some of the items addressed in submission 2 years ago have been submitted. Pulled up. I guess that means that the recommendations made 2 years ago are being entertained now. Pool depth of 4 feet instead of deeper, and automatic pool cover. The following items revised 2 years ago have not been addressed with the present owner's name. Relocation of a propane tank out of the 100-foot setback. Submit updated site plan more recent than 8/29/18, and I don't know that that's the latest plan. I'm sure you guys have something newer. Number 4, install wire back sill fence as installed. Install wire back sill fence as installed or as shown on the site plan. Submit basement plans for pool house. Relocate crepe myrtle clear of septic system. Then they say no construction in 100-foot indicated by code 133-12F3. That's a zoning issue that does not deal with wetlands. They vote 4-1 to deny.
You guys can, hold on just a second. I can't hear you guys now. Hold on. Okay, can you hear me? No, hold on. Okay, planning board, can you guys hear me? No.
Matt, this is Beth. I'm on Zoom also. I can hear you, but I don't see the planning board anymore.
Okay, planning board, I don't know if you guys can hear me or not. I just talked to Beth. She can hear me, but she can't hear you guys. I'm gonna log off and log back in real quick.
Yeah, I just talked to Catherine. She will be restarting the meeting.
It's
It
us.
seemed like everyone got everyone back.
Here we go.
It was on our, oh, we lost Matt though. He goes, I couldn't hear you. I'm gonna log out and come back in. He'll be back. He'll be back.
He just said he's gonna log in and log it back in.
Yeah.
He'll be back in a minute.
It's all your fault, Christina.
Always, always.
Our audio is flicking.
Okay, are we back? Are we back on, in communication?
I can hear you, Matt. It sounds like the planning board is having issues on their end.
I think we're back on.
Okay, back on? Okay, good. Perfect.
Yeah.
So did everyone hear, just to clarify, everyone hear the CAC comments that I read?
Yes.
Good, okay.
Okay,
Matt,
great,
please
thank you.
take it away.
All right, Matt Sherman, Sherman Engineering and Consulting. I'm here on behalf of the property owner, Bill Michael, who's in the audience, along with Pam Pospel, his architect, and James Eklund, who's the contractor on the project. As with before, I got hopefully a quicker presentation, and I'll share that if I could share my screen. Okay. I'm assuming you can all see on the screen the survey that's on there right now. This property, as had been mentioned in the CAC comments, it had been approved for a wetlands permit a couple of years ago. It's on West Neck Creek, Simpson Road to the north, Bay Avenue to the east, and developed property to the south, as this page is configured. A 100-foot wetland setback is running like right down here through the house. This is the 75-foot wetland setback. And let me go back a screen. This is the existing house as it's right now, the existing septic system, which is within that adjacent regulated area, and the existing well, which is within the vegetative buffer. The proposed work is going to be an area of a new foundation, which is underneath an existing screen room. Another small foundation here that's underneath an existing part of the building, filling in an area that's a current cellar entrance, so like a Bilco door entrance, and then some other miscellaneous stairs and steps and things like that. Some are going away, some are coming in. That's for the main part of the house. That we're not asking for a wetlands permit for a majority of that because it was approved and is under construction now with a valid building department permit. The wetlands permit is for some of the small walkways and steps. And then this area here, which is between the main house or to the side of the main house, a basement entrance, a patio, proposed swimming pool, little patio area, and then a small pool cabana. All of those improvements are within the adjacent regulated area. The closest of them being the corner of the pool patio at just over 76 feet from the wetlands boundary, which on this site is the bulkhead. The areas that we're talking about here within that adjacent regulated area, 68 square feet of stair and walkway, 19 square feet of the building. The proposed pool is 684 square feet, patio 407, and then the cabana, which is 282 square feet. The new construction within the vegetative buffer is 43 square feet of stair. 38 square feet of it is within the vegetative buffer. These walkways, these concrete walkways are basically remaining as is, or maybe we might change them to like a permeable paver, something to that effect. So the impermeable concrete would be going away. We've got an existing stair that we're adding 3 square feet to. So we're at a total of 41 square feet new work within the vegetated buffer. The new septic system is going here on the road side. So it was over here in the adjacent regulated area. It's coming out and going completely 100 feet from the wetlands. Stormwater dry wells are going into what is currently an asphalt driveway and will be turned into a gravel driveway, removing about 420 square feet total. Most of it is outside of the regulated area. We've got dry wells over here for the swimming pool and a dry well right up here for the roof runoff for the pool cabana. The new supply well, if you remember before, it was right down here, just on the water side of where the proposed pool would be going. The new well is way out in the corner as far landward as we can get it for this site. The previous site, let me see, our previous site coverage, we were at 9% for buildings and 14% for total. And then with the proposed slight increase on that, the proposed site coverage, we're basically at 10% and 17%. So for the size of the property, we're not anywhere near the limits for the zone, for the A zone of the property. The basement layout, these areas here are where we're getting our new foundation on what would be the top of the page here, new storage area. This is the existing basement entrance that's getting a new foundation and turning into support for the floor above. Same thing with this area over here. The basement is getting a rec room with a half bath laundry room. For the first floor, the kitchen is getting reconfigured. The existing screen room is turning into a dining room. Then we've got a living room, bedroom on the first floor, mudroom and garage. And then on the second floor, you're getting 4 bedrooms and a few bathrooms on the second floor, small office area on the second floor. The elevations of the building, this is one of the main differences between this project and the one that was approved previously, is in looking at the building from the road size, there's not any increase in massing of the building. It's going to be refurbished. It's going to be reconfigured slightly, made much, brought into much more. The building itself is remaining very similar to what's there now. You've got a new stair on the left-hand side going down to the basement, as I mentioned earlier, a new entryway, but it's basically a reflection of what's there already. For the pool house or the pool cabana, it's a very small building. It's open, so you're going to have a small bathroom, half bath, toilet and sink, and then an open cabana area in 3/4 of the building. This is the view from the road. So as you're looking at the building from standing on Bay, you're looking at it, the house obviously to the right-hand side, the pool would be here in the middle, and then the pool cabana on the left-hand side. Again, to give you a little bit of a reference and something to compare it to from the previous approved plan, this is what was approved. The pool and a pool house with a storage shed on the back side of it. And that's what we're looking at. It's significantly smaller as far as an overall project is concerned. The house itself is smaller. The accessory building is significantly smaller than what was already approved. One of the big concerns we have is obviously depth to groundwater here, just as with the previous application. In this case, groundwater is at a 1-foot elevation. Keeping the bottom of the swimming pool 2 feet above groundwater, that's what brings us to that 4.5 foot or so of total depth for the proposed swimming pool. The pool house, the depth of that foundation will be at made so that we're not going to have to dewater and not going to go into groundwater for pouring concrete or anything to that effect. The only thing that's happening in the basement of this pool house is the pool equipment. So it's not like we have to worry about having 7.5 foot headroom or anything like that in the basement of this building. The vegetation plan, Liberty Landscape had done the vegetation plan. For the most part, as far as the wetlands permit is concerned, what we're concerned about is what's happening on this bank. And its seagrasses are going to be there. It's about a 10 to 12 foot wide buffer. The bank has a natural slope that comes from the top of the bulkhead up to where the lawn levels out. So that natural slope there is what would be receiving all of that vegetation, all of those seagrasses. That's the gist of the project. I've got, some, if the board has questions, I can answer anything. Again, the property owner, as well as his architect and his contractor are here as well, if you have any questions for them.
I went to the site with Marcus a few days ago. We did notice that the bulkhead is new, so we don't have the same problems we're gonna have in this Heights project. Did have a question about a pipe that was near the bulkhead that has alarm company sign in front of it so no one would hit their ankles on it, sticking up about so high. What is that pipe? It's not an oil tank, right?
I don't know.
I know it's not an oil tank because that was taken out years ago. I'll pass that on to
Is it a
Bill.
flag?
Or
Could be.
I've noticed that there. I don't know what it is. I know it's not an oil tank, so we looked at that.
Can you put your laundry on one of those little pumps?
I think if they're gonna talk, they come up and announce themselves, right? So, I'm sorry.
I think. All right, Matt, we'll have to try to figure out what that is then.
Yeah, we can look into it. I know when I had done a project at this site, probably 5 or 6 years ago now, I would think. And when we removed the oil tank that was in the area where the pool would be going now, in that ballpark area. So I know that it's not that. So we'll look into it and figure out and see what's going on.
I didn't have any problems. The one thing I would like to see is the silt fencing towed in. Right now, the silt fencing is above grade and soil can go in between. That bottom flap's really got to be buried in the ground of the existing silt fencing. That's the only.
Yeah.
Keep that
And
over
the
grass.
CAC had a good
You're supposed to
comment.
dig it in. That's what the reason that flap is extended, and that's what holds the earth from blowing out the bottom.
Yeah,
But,
absolutely. And the CAC had a good comment when they looked at the site that the silt fencing isn't in the location of where it would be once the wetlands permit is approved and that work is allowed to move forward. And that's what we'll end up doing is, so if the wetlands permit's approved and we can put the pool and the pool house in and do that other work associated with it, we'll make sure that that silt fence is installed as shown on the plan and installed correctly. Absolutely.
I'm happy that this project is smaller than the previous round. The previous round was contentious because of a rolling shell that someone wanted to encapsulate or store. So I really have no issues with this.
Did you guys note the propane tank that the CAC?
Oh, the
was asking
CAC was
about?
asking about the propane tank, and I looked at
Adjacent
the
area.
resolution from the town board previously, and they wanted the propane tank out of the 100-foot setback. Is that something you can do? Is there room to do it?
The only place we can move that tank would be up by the that northeast corner, and I'm getting it very close to the septic system. I can look to see. I can't put it on the southeast because of the well. The health department recommendations are that we stay 100 feet away from the well for an
100%.
in-ground propane tank.
Yep.
So I'm kind of stuck. I can see if we can squeeze it up in that northeast corner, but it's going to be tight. I've got to stay. I'll look at the code, but I think the health department recommends 20 feet away from the septic, and that puts me right to the property line, and I can't do that.
And wasn't there something about the propane group suing Suffolk County about their separation distances? So
They
these
did, yeah.
these
Yeah,
separation distances are best practices defined by the health department. But if you don't have to meet them, you could shorten up those distances.
It's as with most of these things, it's a mix. The health department at first wanted 150 feet from your well to your propane tank. Then they went down to 100 feet. They got sued. The 100 foot is a recommendation. It's not a hard requirement. I believe that the hard requirement is 10 feet from the well and 20 feet from the septic, but I have to double check on that. I don't remember off the top of my head. It's something to that effect. So I can put it over by the well. It's, it would give us, maybe another 20 feet so maybe we'd be at 120 feet from the wetlands boundary. It is getting closer than the health department is recommending we get it to the well. So it's kind of like, I don't know which recommendation is more
Well,
important.
the reason I bring it up is that board members have mentioned, the CAC has mentioned, and it was in a previous town board resolution. So if there's something we can do to get it out of the 100 foot, then I feel happy to appease everyone. That's.
And then the only other two things from the CAC that I wanted clarification on too is that they were asking about the basement plans for the pool house. I'm assuming that you just addressed that before when you said that it's
Just
just
pool
gonna have
equipment.
pool equipment. You don't have the standard ceiling in there. There are no real plans for the basement, right? I mean,
No, it's an unoccupied space, I assume.
That's
Yeah.
correct. It's just mechanical equipment is all that's going in there. Absolutely. Yeah.
and then they were also asking about the landscaping plan with crepe myrtle being clear.
I watched the CAC meeting. They were just basically, they didn't want the plant to be put on top of the leaching field.
Oh, so you.
So the roots don't come down and so that was their major concern. So I don't think that's very hard to move a grape myrtle a couple feet over.
Right. That's correct. Yeah.
Matt, the total expansion in the vegetative buffer is like 41 square feet?
Yeah, let me get you the exact number here real quick.
38.
Yeah, you've got a 38 feet of 38 feet here. You got 41 square feet total in the vegetative buffer is the
All right.
expansion.
Very
And it's
good.
it's a portion of two different sets of steps.
Yeah.
Does anyone in the audience have any comments? Does anyone on Zoom have any comments?
I had 2 questions.
Oh,
Once you
I'm
get back
sorry,
around.
jumping the gun.
That's okay. That's okay. Is anybody on Zoom?
He goes first.
Okay. Just a couple questions. One is I did notice, and I think you mentioned in the first talk about the site plan. The site plan does look like it's from 2017, 2018. Is there any problem with it being that old?
Matt, do you want to talk to that? The older site
Yeah,
plan?
it's the base map for the map. The site plan is different. The site plan is, the current site plan that was done for the current property owner. The base map survey was used to start that. In a case like this wetlands, where the wetlands boundary is at the bulkhead, it's not
not gonna
getting any
change.
closer. And
Great.
that's really the concern I would have if I was reviewing one of these, where
Yep.
you want to make sure that that wetlands limit is the most current, most accurate one you can have.
That's standard.
Yeah, cool. The other question that I had is on the test hole, which is also from 2017, was the last time this was tested. Is that good? Expect you to move it all?
It tells you what the soil quality is going down, so.
We don't expect. We don't
Defines it
expect.
into different types of soil for construction and for percolation for the health department. It tells us what the water level is at the day that was taken. Water does go up and down to some degree, but you don't need to update a test.
Okay, I just wasn't sure. Thank you.
Howard, you have a question?
Yes, I do. I don't know if it's under your jurisdiction. We've had this discussion before about the zoning requirement for 133, and you said it was a miswrite. I don't know what to do about that.
Howard, we've talked about this on every application.
Yes.
And it's a part of the zoning, it's not part of the wetlands code. I've asked the town board on a couple occasions to clarify that language, and they're in the process of doing so.
Okay.
So I don't think it's never been flagged by any of the plan examiners in the past. And so it's only recently been mentioned as a topic. I can't speak to it, but the town board is working on clarifying that.
So then you wouldn't take this into consideration because the town board has actually given you the jurisdiction to, or you've rewritten.
Not that part.
We don't have a jurisdiction over zoning, Howard, and again, it would be absolutely contrary to the wetlands code, and it doesn't make sense, and no plan examiner has ever flagged it. So I think the town board knows there are a handful of things they have to take care of, and hopefully it'll address it sooner than later.
Okay, I'll bring that up with them then. Thank you for that. The other question I had is, I'm looking at the 129 code, which you are now responsible for correctly. And I look and it seems that they've already excavated underneath the existing porch. And if
They
you
have a building department permit for that. That's not in our purview. The building department has issued them a permit for that work already.
okay, so that's not your purview. Okay, so
Take it up with the building.
Please talk to the building department on that one.
okay, I appreciate you looking at that, but I just was wondering because, you know, we just went through this, you rewrote that section of the, worked on the rewriting of that section 129, and it's still in there, you know, about no excavations and stuff like that in the 75 foot, so.
Thank you, Howard. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So I make a motion to close this public hearing.
Are we expecting then new plans with potentially the propane moved? Is that where we're at, or what, where?
I think it's just gonna be, I think I would just make it a condition, similar to the town board, just make it a condition of approval.
So it sounds like we can close the public meeting.
So I make a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Matt.
I just want to make a quick statement. We have late today received 2 applications regarding the Rams Head Inn and the Bennett property, adjoining Bennett property. We are not going to discuss them in any way tonight, just in case someone's out there expecting these to be discussed. So the next application I must recuse myself from. It's for 58 Westmoreland Drive, as I'm the project designer. And just so everyone is on the same page, it's freezing cold outside. I'm just going to sit in the foyer if that's okay with you guys.
Sure, that's fine.
All right, thank you.
Warren.
Okay, Catherine, you want to read, could you read the notice, please?
A public hearing regarding an application for wetlands permit by Catherine and Matthias Stitch. Property which is subject of the application is located at 58 Westmoreland Drive, Shelter Island, New York. The applicants are requesting a wetlands permit as required pursuant to Town Wetlands Code 129-2 to remove an existing swimming pool, pool equipment, patio, and tennis court, and construct a new swimming pool, concrete patio, and install a new IAOWTS septic system, Circle Class Type 2.
Okay, thank you. We got the CAC's report, and they had 2 things. They said extend non-turf buffer to edge of dock to prevent runoff from grass to West Neck Bay, and 2, move pool to west and change deep end of pool to west to avoid the adjacent regulated buffer area. Okay. Matt, you want to talk about this?
Yep, absolutely. Thank you. Matt Sherman, Sherman Engineering. I'm here on behalf of Katie and Matthias Stitch, who are the property owners of 58 Westmoreland Drive. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, this property is on Westmoreland Drive, borders West Neck Bay, Westmoreland to the south, West Neck Bay to the north. There's an existing single-family dwelling. It's kind of a U-shaped building, and currently there's a swimming pool on the road side of the property between the 2 arms of the U. There's an existing tennis court on the water side of the property where the septic system is. Septic system is underneath the tennis court. New York State DEC limits of jurisdiction are this blue line here, along where my pointer is. And the wetlands boundary is down here, right down along here, just seaward, or landward, excuse me, of the mean high tide line. Our 75-foot and 100-foot wetland setbacks, they just nick the tennis court that's just over that wetlands boundary. So we're going to be removing, as part of the application, 88 square feet of that tennis court from the adjacent regulated area. So our proposed plan is to put in a new IA septic system with the leaching galleys coming up to the 100-foot setback. So they're 100 feet, over 100 feet from the wetlands boundary. A new swimming pool is going to go in, and that swimming pool is going to be just under 84 feet from the wetlands boundary. There's going to be 481 square feet of that swimming pool will be within the regulated area. So we're going to have a proposed pool dry well, some proposed stormwater dry wells. The existing pool that's there now is going to be abandoned, taken out, and it's going to be turned into a courtyard on the water side, on the road side of the house. There's an existing irrigation well on site, which has got a permit from the town, and a 2,500 gallon precast cistern. We're going to use that for stormwater from roof, and there's an overflow dry well for that cistern. Swimming pool, it's basically a 16 by 45 pool in a patio that's just under 30 by 70. A little spa off to the side of the pool, and there's an existing deck off of the house. So the pool and patio are set just off of that deck. We put a test hole in to see what, as with the other applications, what the soil conditions were, and get a snapshot to see what we could expect for groundwater elevation. These waterfront properties, a lot of times, more often than not, the groundwater is going to be tidally influenced. So we look at the test hole as well as test holes and well data that we have on this property and a lot of properties around it to come up with an estimate for the highest expected groundwater. For most of this Westmoreland area, we know that groundwater is going to be at about a 1 foot elevation. So, excuse me, based on that 1 foot groundwater elevation, we're coming up 2 feet to the bottom of the, at least 2 feet to the bottom of the swimming pool. In this case, we're at about 3 feet. Excuse me. We got an automatic cover for the pool on the deep end, and the top of the pool elevation is going to be at about 13 foot elevation. So a simplified view of the property, you've got your side yard lines for the swimming pool, the setbacks of 20 feet on either side. We have to stay 20 feet away from the leaching pool, so we can't move the pool to the west at all. We're pretty much locked into the area where the pool is right now. We had looked at moving the pool underneath the patio, get it closer so that we could get it out of the regulated area. But excuse me, what that would end up doing is putting the lion's share of the patio underneath the existing deck. And just from a usability standpoint, that just doesn't make any sense. Also, it's going to interfere with the posts and the footings for the posts holding up that existing deck. And it just creates a very awkward, unnatural situation with where the pool and the patio are in relationship to the deck. And one of the things that we had looked at with this is whether or not, the town code says that in chapter 129, you can build in that 75 to 100 foot setback, the adjacent regulated area. But you want to make sure that your other options, you don't have a better option that you're ignoring, or even a really good viable option that you're ignoring somewhere else. The idea of the pool being on the road side as it currently exists, it's less than 10 feet from the building on either side. Minimum standard, there's not a code standard for the minimum distance that a swimming pool should be from a building. But the minimum recommended standard is at least 10 feet from the building. It's a safety issue as far as people coming in and out of the building, walking between the pool and the building, splash issues. Somebody does a big cannonball and the water goes, it's going to hit the side of the building. Those kinds of things are reasons why they recommend that the pool not be put in that kind of condition as this one was originally constructed. Also, as far as the town permitting history is concerned, we've got several applications where a swimming pool was allowed within the regulated area, even though there were other alternatives, when those other alternatives were less than ideal. Couple of examples. This is one that was approved, a wetlands permit approved in April of 2021. The swimming pool was approved right here. This is the 75-foot setback. This is the 100-foot setback. Swimming pool is between the two of them. There's lots of other areas on this property that the pool could have gone. We didn't want to put them in other areas on this project because of trees and other improvements, septic systems and things along those lines. This is also where there was an existing structure already, so there was minimal amount of damage to the site by putting the pool in this location. But the town agreed that having a pool within that 75 to 100-foot zone was not an unreasonable request. Here's another one. This was March of 2022. The town board approved this swimming pool. Again, within that adjacent regulated area. It could have gone to the west a little bit outside of the regulated area, but getting it closer to the house in a more usable, user-friendly configuration. The town board said that was again, a reasonable request. And I've got a whole bunch of these. I'm not going to go through all of them, but just one, just to really kind of drive the point home. This is I think it's a 400 and something, 500-foot long piece of property. The swimming pool, there was an existing pool here on the water side of the house, and this one's actually in the vegetative buffer. It was removed, and there's a patio that takes up the adjacent regulated area. The town board agreed that putting that pool back in with an increased area of patio within the vegetative buffer, being on the water side of the property, away from the existing patio, made sense from a usability standpoint on the property. And we're just asking that the planning board take that same consideration into mind when reviewing this application. So that's, this is a really fairly straightforward application. Taking out the one pool, putting in the new, taking out the existing septic system, putting in the new IA system, adding some stormwater control, and that's pretty much it. So it's fairly straightforward. So if you have any questions for me, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Matt, I have a question. This is Julia.
Yes, Julia.
Tell me the amount of footage again that it goes over into the adjacent regulated area? The proposed pool, sorry, just the
45 by 16.
400 and, let me see, hold on.
It was
480 square feet within the adjacent regulated area. Yeah.
So I totally get what you're saying about, obviously, Matt and I went to we know the house, we went there, and the pool is in the middle of the house. It's kind of odd looking. But the way it is right now, of course, it's out of the area entirely. It's out of the adjacent, it's out of the buffer. Are there any alternatives to just, like, I noticed it's a 16 by 45 pool. I'm just thinking of my own pool is slightly smaller than that, but I still get the good depth. Are there any alternatives to making that pool smaller? I do understand that you're saying that you disagree with the CAC's recommendation, but you can't really move it to the west because of the other setbacks that you need. But how about just making it smaller?
We could make it a little smaller, but it's not small enough to get it out of the regulated area. So, we're not, you could shave a couple of feet off of it, absolutely. And, that's true of any of these applications. But you're not eliminating the need for a wetlands permit unless you're basically cutting it down to a relatively small triangle.
Just not have patio around it.
Yeah, and on the water side, there is not really any patio around it. On the landward side, there is. You could have we could move it a little bit and have grass. I think part of most swimming pools, having a patio for lawn furniture and stuff like that at grade, that serves a functional purpose for the pool.
Yeah.
All right, I'm just trying to look at different ideas here to make sure that there's no way to get it to fit in there.
How big would the pool, if it was just pool without, you could do a full 16 by 45, I assume, without being in?
Without the patio?
Without what?
Without the patio. Or like
Yeah, so
have
basically.
small patio on one side.
Yeah, you could, well, the problem is we can't move the pool we can't really move the pool to the west any. We could bring it to
Yeah.
the south some. So if we shrunk the pool and we reduced, and we eliminated the patio and eliminated the spa, then yes, theoretically, we could get a pool between the deck and the 100-foot setback. If we if we made all of those changes. Again, that's, and I understand what you guys are saying, and I'm sure you understand where I'm coming from on this as well. If we cut all of those different parts off of this project, it's, the property owner is no longer getting the benefit that they're seeking for this spa and the patio. It's running contrary to the previous town board determinations on similar circumstances.
Yeah, even not even worry about the previous town boards. I mean, it's perfectly allowed to do construction in that area. I'm just trying to understand what trade-offs were considered.
The scale of the pool goes better with the size of the house.
Yeah, no,
If it was tiny, it would be kind of.
I understand.
And to the question of what trade-offs were considered initially, one of the first things we looked at was that one drawing I think I showed of the pool pushed up underneath. So it was basically right at the edge of the patio, the edge of the deck, and the patio was underneath the deck. That was the first thing we looked at. And that, raised a couple of bells for a number of different reasons. The ones I mentioned, having the conflict with the existing deck, the usability of the patio. I think of the idea of my 21-year-old son standing on that deck looking into that pool, things along those lines. Those are all reasons why pushing that pool back out to the area that we're looking at it made it for a very attractive alternative.
Did they look at anything with changing the deck, the upper deck of the second floor of the house? So that, like in this whole project, maybe changing the upper deck? Was that something that you played with, or?
It was not that any conversation that I had with them. I can speak with them and see if they were contemplating that. I know that the idea of maintaining the majority of that existing building, that was part of the idea of, not taking that deck out and putting a patio down there, things along those lines. To what degree they looked at different options, unfortunately, I can't answer that.
All right. Any questions from the audience?
There is no audience.
Where did Lori get?
There's a few.
Well, we have Howard.
Anyone on Zoom?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Howard, yes.
Hi, how you doing? My question is, what happened to the vegetative buffer? Are we going to change that or not?
The CAC recommended adding red vegetative buffer towards the dock so we have less runoff. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah, that seems like something we could make.
Seems reasonable.
Yeah.
We could do that. We can just, we've got that input, Howard, and I think the idea is we take that, once we close the public, we take that into consideration during our review. But it seems reasonable.
Submit a plan for that.
Yeah, we need a plan for it.
As it stands right now, they just have turf. There's actually nothing there, and it does run right into the.
Yeah, right into the water down by the dock.
Matt, is that something you guys would consider?
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, absolutely. That's not a bad idea at all.
I think, yeah, for runoff purposes, I think that's a very good idea.
Thank you.
No problem, Howard. Thank you.
Lori, did you have any questions?
On Stitch.
Anyone else on Zoom? All right,
We can close it.
close it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Close the public hearing.
I'll second that.
Aye.
Aye.
Ready, Bruce?
Okay. Bring the boss back in.
The chair, he's not the boss.
You want to talk about it at all, or?
Well, I think we have, in theory, we go into we go into our thing, and then we probably would think if we go into a working session, if we want to talk about it, we'd make Ian leave again.
Some cold out there, actually.
So we closed that.
Okay. So that ends our business meeting and get into our work session at 9:05. The first is of current applications, the Bloom minor subdivision. And we extended that to July 11th. SH29 West Neck LLC, we just extended that to March 1st. White Roadway Construction, extended that to March 1st. And 6 General Lord Road, they have until July 11th. It came up mostly from the CAC that they are questioning the prints that are coming their way and sizes. And I sent you around an email earlier. And I know we had discussed this when we were putting together an application a long time ago.
Yep.
And so I think clarification, we can go through it again. I'm cognizant of people who are not computer savvy, can't read PDFs on their phone, and also cognizant of an applicant who doesn't want to spend $1,000, $2,000 in prints and cut down 100 trees to make the full submission. So in speaking with the building department about denial letters, it is my understanding that the denial letter is based typically on the survey and site plan, and rarely ever references the building plans. The building department application requires a survey to be scaled at no more than 50 feet to an inch. And I think that we should, receive at least copies in that same standard size. Does that seem to make sense?
Reasonable,
The
yeah.
site plan, full size, everyone should have a full-size site plan.
What's nice about that is then we're seeing exactly the same thing they're seeing, which would be actually probably really good.
Yeah,
Yeah, makes
and I
sense.
think that's already in a requirement. I would say, then the next thing is the DEC copies. Quite often the site plan's quite large. They have the little DEC stamp on it. I'm happy with having one full-size copy and then smaller copies for everyone. I don't think we need 15 copies of the DEC plan.
No, as long as the primary person on it has a copy, I think we're in fine shape.
Are you okay with 8.5 by 11s? Do you want to insist that they're 11 by 17?
We don't need to see so much from.
I think 8 by 11 is fine.
As long as I have a PDF, I can zoom on my computer, I'm
Okay.
fine.
I
I'm
am
fine.
more digital. I mean,
Yeah.
I like hard copy too for some
I
things.
looked on,
but
I'm on digital too, but
like
Howard and the CAC were struggling. They wanted full-size plans of everything.
But then perhaps the compromise is one.
One full-size,
Yeah.
and that's kept in the planning board clerk's office.
Yep.
So the other option would give them 11 by 17s. It's not that, a lot of us have 11 by 17 in-house, but when you go to bigger scale, you have to send it out. Is that where?
That seems fine.
Yeah, I'm good with 11 by 17 and,
Okay.
and the one big copy that we keep, if we need it.
Same goes then with the health department, one full size. And again, insisting that any PDF we get is scalable. So
100%.
that if I need to look at it, or if Joe needs to look at it, he could just print out a copy, on our office machine.
Yep.
House plans, we did find they're beneficial in previous applications. So, and typically they are submitted at 1/4 inch per scale, quarter scale. But again, I don't really want a big bulk of paper, so I think one full-size copy.
Yeah, similar, yeah.
Then,
We don't really need to, we're not an architectural review board.
I think it's generally, if we come across something and we want to look at it, we can come in and look at it, right? That's fine.
I'm just thinking of Carpe where the site plan, which is what Reed went off of for his denial letter.
Yeah.
And then we started looking at the floor plans and they had different
Yeah.
things and that helped us out.
Yeah, agreed.
So then 11 by 17s of the house plans would be okay.
Yeah.
The other option, do you, since you need them scalable, do you guys break out a scale and measure them?
We
Do
have,
you know how to use a scale? I'm sorry, not to put anyone on the spot.
I just like to be able to expand stuff and look at it and get a general idea. I don't,
Okay.
as long as it's expandable. I mean, I do a lot of my work digitally.
Yeah.
me too.
And I have one hard copy at home, and I do like one tangible thing, but.
The only thing I would say is what if it's a big lot? Like what if it's like a 3-acre lot?
Yeah.
You know, you may want to have a bigger, you know what I'm saying? If you're looking at Daniel Lord.
I'm talking about for the house. No, just the house.
Oh, it's a house.
Yeah, generally it's like
Do
this
you guys
wetlands.
carry these with you? Do you break them out and then measure precisely?
No.
Yes.
I use a computer, I measure on a computer.
So the point is that we don't need 1/8-inch scale.
No.
We just need 11 by 17.
Yeah.
Right. That's where I was going.
Yeah, for the architect.
Yeah, well, you're the architect.
That's why a scalable PDF, if I really want to measure something
That's
like,
exactly right.
Use my measuring tape.
on the screen, hold it up to
No,
your
I will look at
screen.
the paper.
I just call Ian and say, Ian, how big is it?
Landscape vegetation plan, I think the same thing, one full-size copy and then 11 by 17s. And the 11 by 17s, again, is trying to help the CAC out, who's been struggling with 8.5 by 11s.
I've been fine with all the vegetative plants we've had before.
Yeah.
No problem reading.
Okay.
Actually, some of them were really good, so.
Yeah. And generally they're scalable because they're done electronically anyway.
Okay, so I will update our application for these few items.
Really? Agreed.
So, current wetlands applications, flowers, we've not closed the hearing, we're going to discuss that further. Michael. And Beth, I think a lot of these comments, I guess, are for you.
I'm here.
So, I think the application was fine. Where's the? I printed out a list for you. But do you have, can I borrow that list back, the thing I gave you? Oh, here it is, I got it, criteria. So let's go through the criteria for permit issuance. The proposed action and location will not risk or create a risk of impairing the function and value of the wetlands buffer. It's a bulkheaded property. There's going to be stormwater collection. The sanitary system's being moved further away. I don't see how this is creating any risk of impairing the wetlands buffer. The proposed project will not diminish any wetlands in size unless the approving authority finds that the proposed activity is water dependent or requires access to the wetland as a central element of its basic function and will result in the minimum possible alteration or impairment of the wetlands. If anything, only removing a sanitary system away, really there's not much more activity in the vegetative buffer. There is work in the adjacent regulated area, but I don't see anything else that would, they are really.
They did there's like a few square feet, right? But it's within the 100 square feet, so.
It's within 100 square feet. The proposed project will not have a negative impact on the quantity and quality of the groundwater. Think if water's being recharged and they're putting in an IA sanitary system, the pool bottom's being kept up out of the groundwater, so I don't see any issues. Proposed project will not create a net increase in the risk of runoff. Stormwater is being collected and recharged to the decrease in runoff. The applicant has demonstrated that there are no practical alternatives which allow the project to be constructed outside the regulated area. Practical alternatives are presumed to be available unless the applicant clearly demonstrates otherwise.
Small property.
As a tight property, and it's actually a smaller scope than what was previously approved. And then last, the applicant has submitted information to describe alternative site locations and configurations sufficient for a determination that the proposed work and location would have a less adverse environmental impact than any other practical alternative in order for it to be approved. There is no.
Again, it's already less than what was previously approved, so no matter what, we are getting less.
And I think it's,
You did a good job.
as far as then conditions, obviously the automated pool cover, the cartridge filter. I can't remember if this was a salt cell being offered or not. We have required salt cell in the past. I don't know if we should continue demanding on everyone. Not everyone likes salt cell.
Yeah, it was not a salt cell, I don't believe, but we didn't discuss it. I don't think it's.
So I think just the automated pool cover
That's the key.
and the cartridge filter.
Yep, agreed.
Previously, the previous approval required a low flow, 5 gallon a minute well. That area has salt intrusion issues. And so I think requiring the 5 gallon a minute well would be something.
I agree.
We've
done that with
on the one Silver Beach brand.
Yeah.
Same thing we do in all these areas where there's.
And we know there's little issues. The other thing that I've seen come up in an application that I started talking to Marcus about is hot water recirculation in a house. Now, it's a luxury feature and people seem to like it, but it also saves a lot of water. If you're living at one end of the house and you want to take a shower and you turn the water on, you're draining a lot of water, throwing a lot of gallons out before you can actually use it. The hot water recirculator adds $1,500, $2,000 to a project, but allows one to instantly have hot water so they don't have to waste it. And you do have the ability to turn it off when you're not using the house. You throw a wall switch, it's actually a code requirement. So that's something I think you guys might want to consider.
It seems like it seems sort of like beyond the wetlands code issue, right? It seems like that's more like it's
a water consumption issue.
But the water, it's recirculating. I mean, yeah, we use a lot of water, but it's all just going to basically go back into the ground and be recirculated. It's like
hot water recirc is a interior loop between your hot water tank and the faucet.
I had one in San Francisco. Yeah.
Okay, but it's not dumping water.
No, he's saying when you run the water to get water.
Conservation is the fact that you're not.
It's going back into the, ground.
So
Anyway.
the reason I brought it up was because there was a application on Tar Kettle a couple of years ago that was required to have this. It was
really?
It was a recycling construction project. And they were, I think they were, did the contracting. They lived next, Peter Reich lived next door. And he was the one that brought it up as a water conservation measure.
And I think in California, we do it all the time. It's because we're drought conditions. But to me, it's like, and actually I would love my house to have one. But to me, the conservation is pretty minimal, given the fact that it goes into our ground and then into our well and water comes back. It's like, it's not that big of a deal here, I don't think, as it is in drought areas.
I think the pump is more important than.
I agree. And I think that's really interesting though, but I think that's something I recommend we make.
Also remember, just sorry to interrupt, but also just remember that your conditions need to be tied specifically to your relief requested. So what the applicant is asking for, what conditions you require mitigating those impacts of those structures that are being approved or whatnot. How is it offsetting? And the board has to, what's the nexus between the condition and the approval. So just when you're considering conditions, make sure you keep that in mind, that it's got to be tied to what the impacts are of what the structures that are being constructed are.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, seems like a nice to have.
It was just something I threw out there.
Yeah, no, I think it'd be cool if we should put it in code.
I'm looking at the previous condition list. LPG tank relocated out of the 100-foot adjacent regulated area, auto cover. Depth of pool to 6.5, they're doing it 4. No dewatering during construction. They're not gonna do that. I'd like again.
Propane tank, you can't move it.
No, they're gonna look at it.
They're gonna look at it.
They're gonna look at it. Okay.
I do want to see the silt fencing towed in. It's not properly installed.
Well, they're gonna redo the self fencing anyway, right? The whole thing, but yes, it has to be towed in. Agreed.
Concrete paths shall be replaced with pavers. They said they may or may not look at that. Right now, they're all concrete paths.
Yeah, currently, it's not part of the plan, I don't think, for them to do anything with them.
But they're still, only expanding the 100 square feet, so. Low nitrogen, construction site must be clear of all trash and debris on a regular, at least once a week. Parking and materials off the street as possible. These are all standard things that, I don't know that we need to.
That's a construction permit.
To add. Must repair damage to any public road, street caused by construction value. Or per vehicles.
That seems unrelated to us, wetlands. It's like a.
Project manager shall post a sign on the site with his cell phone number and shall address in a timely fashion neighbors' concerns regarding litter control, parking, noise. That's out of our
building construction stuff, right?
It's out of our purview.
Agreed.
Dark sky compliance, noise controls. These all seem outside of the wetlands.
That's because the town board used to go beyond just the wetlands. They'd add broader things.
Okay, so Beth, I think we're talking about the cartridge filter, auto pool cover, the low flow well, and moving the LPG tank out of the 100 feet.
Yeah.
Okay.
That all sounds good.
Are you guys going to talk about the next one? Do I walk out of the room again?
Do we do a motion or anything on that to say that's what we want to do? We're going to approve 10.
No, this is just we're asking Beth to draft the version.
Right. Ducks in order. Been a while. It's been like a month.
So, are you guys going to discuss? Should I walk out?
Yeah, we probably should.
Do this right.
Yeah. Is there anything else is there anything else after that? Or is that the last one?
Yeah, there's another application.
New application.
He gets a break.
I think we're not gonna be able to do it tonight.
All right, so you guys looked at this, right?
Yeah.
And to me, it looks pretty straightforward. I mean, there's nothing.
We had
We're trying to figure out.
We had the
some way
same concern that the CAC had initially. We thought, if we could move the pool closer to the house, away from the wetlands
that we are
more,
the wetlands entirely.
we could, but if, having had that discussion with Matt, and taking a look at it, we thought too about moving it towards the
Actually,
west.
We wanted to move it west and
We wanted to move it west as well, but we can't do that with the new IA system there.
Yeah.
You
Right.
can't.
And there's no place else for the IA.
They're also putting it where that goes is they take the tennis court out. So that,
Tennis court's out, it's gone, yeah.
And
So, I mean, if it's within their right, if we can't find a better place to put that portion of it in the 75 foot.
Yeah, 100%.
And bringing it closer to the house does get dangerous. I don't like it when you open a door and you go right into.
Yep, I actually have, my house is like this, where, and basically the pool's right here, and there is not the patio.
Right.
It is, so I always tell the kids, like, anybody comes over, it's like, don't you dare, cannot jump off, because
That's
you
not
could.
on the vacation stuff.
It's dangerous.
Well, I mean, that's.
But can I just add that if they did do that, that's the building department, and there are safety
Yeah.
features that go in and all that, so
I
that's
don't
not
think-
really
yeah.
so important.
We can't think of, that's not it,
Yeah.
but
But I think where we got stuck, I just wanted to rule out any other possibilities in size,
Yeah.
and I think the issue is the septic going on that west side, which
I agree.
throws everything off.
Yeah, that's everything.
I don't want, I mean, that's a very valuable thing to have the IA, so I can't say, well, you're not gonna put the IA in and put the.
And we've approved many things
yes.
in the 70, in that.
Right.
So it's like, if you can't find another place for it, then it's like, you're allowed to construct there.
Right, yeah.
You are, but I was trying to get it even out of
Well,
that.
we were looking at that. We were trying to do,
Of course.
make the best decision possible. But that's why we have people like Matt to tell us, how that thing,
Yeah.
where things go,
They,
what the rules
and the
are.
fact that they actually looked at options was good to see. We've had times.
I think that the vegetative buffer being grown over, moved over closer
Yeah.
to the dock to control the runoff from that lawn, because it's all lawn, right down,
Yeah.
right down to
That's a bigger issue, yeah.
that
That would be the
right down
condition.
to West Neck Bay.
Yeah.
And I think that is important. The runoff is just a huge problem. We can fix some of that.
I actually think it would kill two birds with one stone, and that some of when we went there was a lot of wildlife coming up.
Yeah,
through the
yeah,
lawn.
the
I
geese,
think
the geese
The
were.
vegetative buffer is actually gonna solve two problems.
Oh,
They have
really?
a lot of
Oh, we get one.
wildlife coming up, so I think that'll keep things, because they generally avoid barriers, like natural barriers.
Yeah.
There's no fencing there, for example, right now, there's nothing, it's just lawn right to the
Right
sand.
down to the dock, yeah.
Yeah, and it does slope considerably, yeah. So I think they should submit like vegetative,
Yeah.
I think that's good.
yeah.
I think, so I would think what we'd say is do we want to, are we waiting for anything from them on this one?
No.
No, the only thing is if we were gonna go with taking out the spa, making the pool smaller, putting it closer to the decking, maybe modifying the patio, if we insisted on that, Matt would have to do another.
But we haven't, at the close of the meeting, we didn't say we wanted, there's no outside.
Record's closed.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So my thought is, do we want to go through the same list that we just went through the last one about, just to go through and say what would be the conditions that we want to put on the
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's the next step.
Well, let's see what we have here. Let's see. The proposed action and location will not create a risk of impairing the function and value of the wetlands and buffer.
Well, there's nothing in the vegetative
Nothing in
buffer.
the 70.
It's very similar to the last one, which is there's nothing actually in the vegetative buffer at all in this one.
Yeah,
And if we do put a condition to improve the
right.
turf, then that would actually be a positive.
The proposed project will not diminish any wetlands in size unless the approving authority finds that the proposed activity is water dependent or requires access to the wetland as a central element of its basic function and will result in the minimum possible alteration or impairment of the wetlands.
Again, nothing in the vegetative buffer itself.
No.
The proposed project will not have a negative impact on the quantity and quality of groundwater.
Nothing's actually, again, improvement. They're adding a bunch with the IA and with the stormwater runoff.
Yeah.
And
They're
we're-
also taking out the tennis court, which is covering the existing septic, which if they had a problem with the septic, that's gonna be an issue with access.
Yeah, yeah.
No tennis.
This happens a lot though in some of those older properties, things are built over other.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody plays tennis anymore.
They're putting in the IA. so.
Yeah, that's the big thing. The proposed project will not create a net increase in the risk of runoff.
No, the net decrease.
If we require that buffer to grow out, it'll.
Even the buffer, but also just the fact they've got stormwater.
Stormwater, and also the tennis court's gonna be gone. So
Yep, all that's better.
that's an improvement.
The applicant has demonstrated that there are no practicable alternatives which allow the project to be constructed outside the regulated area. Practicable alternatives are presumed to be available unless the applicant clearly demonstrates otherwise in making this determination. Note that the planning board generally finds that conducting the proposed regulated activity on the side or landward side of the house is highly preferred to conducting it within the regulated area. Well, like we said, if he moves it
Yeah, you
Can't move it to the west.
Can't move it to the west because of the septic system. Can't move it towards the west because it becomes
Right.
dangerous.
I think the only other
If they
option.
left it where it is, it'd be great, but we gotta find a balance of
And
owners and rights
put it where he
versus.
wants to put it, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
The applicant has submitted information to describe alternative site locations and configurations sufficient for a determination that the proposed work and location would have a less adverse environmental impact than any other practicable alternative in order for it to be approved. Practicable, I hate that word, alternatives that are constructed entirely outside the vegetative buffer are presumed to have less adverse impacts on the wetlands than projects that do not meet such standards unless the applicant clearly demonstrates otherwise. Well, we already demonstrated
I think
that,
that was satisfying.
his discussion there about moving the pool made perfect sense.
Yeah, and then the only other option is move west, and then you have the septic problem. So it seems like, again, they did look at it, which was, again, I think Matt has learned that he has to show options.
Right.
They considered them and what the trade-offs are.
Didn't notice that.
Yeah, we all learn. I think the only other options are basically a diminishment of the size, pretty dramatic diminishment of the size, and or no patio, which is sort of like, again,
Well, I think it, like I said, it goes well with the scale of the house. You put in like a tiny pool next to a big house. It's
Yeah.
kind of like.
Yeah.
Kind of
I mean, I personally would love to see nothing in that area, so I'm not like entirely happy with it, but I'm willing to compromise on this, because as he said, it's 480. And I do kind of see what you're saying about if you cut out the spa and you made it like a really tiny pool, it may fit barely, but it's gonna be quite odd.
Like a cheap
And,
person lives there, it's like the two.
well, it's not that, it's the,
oh, I get it, I get it. I think it's the lesser of the two evils, right?
we get all the other things, we get the IAA, we get the runoff, we do a condition for them to improve the turf runoff. I think
Tennis
that's
court's not really great either for.
potential turf.
Also, they have existing cistern
Yes,
and a permitted
irrigation system.
irrigation system, so that's a plus. They're gonna be using that to,
Yep. Yep.
Matt put that in the presentation, if you recall. So,
That's already built in, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so is that the last one?
Yes, that's it.
We kind of said, on the pool, are we doing the automatic pool cover?
Yes.
They need to have that in there, didn't they?
I thought it was.
I remember seeing it, just somebody check,
Yeah, I'll double check. I remember us talking about
be
it.
sure,
If not,
make sure that's
if not, let's add it as a condition.
Yeah.
We can do what we want.
pretty standard now.
Yeah.
And that is that's a rectangular pool.
Yeah. Utilize not automatic cover on the swimming pool significantly, yes, it's in there.
It's in there? Okay,
It's
good.
in the application.
All right. That's it.
So it sounds like that the vegetative we're talking about, the only condition we're talking about additionally is the vegetative
buffer.
Vegetative buffer?
Yeah, across the end of the
Yeah.
yard.
I think
Now,
that's
do
it.
you want them to submit a plan prior to
Yes.
building?
Yes.
You can look at it, and is there any specific width, or like, is it up to a
It
certain
should-
point?
They should use the town list. Our-
It's
No,
not-
not-
I think
not
that's
this.
the width.
He's talking about the
Oh, the
width.
width, sorry, I thought you said list.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We're not landscape artists, so,
I would say proposal from a
a
landscape person who understands runoff issues.
Right.
Between Matt and their landscaper, they can come back and tell us what it does.
Joe, you still there?
Joe, are you still on? Are you awake?
He wasn't feeling well.
Yeah, I know he's feeling ill, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there he is.
Hey, Joe, do you have any recommendation or thoughts on vegetative buffer for runoffs?
Sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah. Is there a rule of thumb at all? Is
50-foot buffer.
that pretty normal?
It's bigger than what's there now.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
There's nothing there.
Well,
it's a non-turf
Oh,
buffer.
yeah.
there's, if they,
Oh,
50 feet that's a pretty chunk.
yeah, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
And
There is an existing one. How about just
Buffer can
extending?
just be allowed to just no longer maintain it. So if it's lawn, don't fertilize it, don't mow it, and just let it naturally succeed to a natural vegetative buffer.
Right, but we need to give them guidance because there's a good sized lawn. And we're not asking them to do the whole thing. We just need to do a strip of it between the actual grass and the water. So,
It looks like there's a existing non-turf.
yeah, there is some.
There's some.
They kind of, I think what the CAC was saying, if you let that grow over.
Maybe there's currently a FEMA flood line right there. And if we just said along that line and just that makes we want all of that.
Well, I have a choice. You give them a choice whether, put new plantings or let it grow naturally out.
We got to give them a border. We got to give them we want it to be up to here.
Well, if you don't want 50, what do you want?
I don't really know. I'm not.
Well, you can have them just submit something and then you can just sign off on it or say, no, it needs to be a little bit more or something like that.
Let's do that.
Let's do that. See what their recommendation. They get the idea, right?
Right.
We want a natural, I think the main point is we want a natural buffer across the entire dimension, across the entire property line. Because right now it isn't. Yeah. I'll let you come up with wonderful words for that, Beth. I'm sure you can figure that out.
I'm absolutely.
You get the gist. Okay. Is that it then?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. Ian.
Is that? No, that's not it.
So there's one more. And then we probably need to talk about who's going to do the test run, which I think that's what we want to talk about. Okay. Want to talk about test run, I assume?
So Joe prepared a memo for Tesoro.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And I looked at the plans in addition. And
ready?
I don't understand. There's a couple things I don't understand, and maybe Matt can talk to this.
I just got this today.
Joe, do you feel up to just very briefly explaining your memo? I don't want to put you on the spot if you're not feeling well.
No, that's fine. All right, this is another very difficult lot.
Okay.
It's triangular shaped. There's not a great deal of upland area from the upland edge of wetlands, and the site has been developed over time. And what they're proposing to do is replace an existing sanitary system that is not up to standards with an IA system. The thing is, even with the IA system, they only have about a little over 11 feet of separation between the edge of the leaching pool and the upland edge of wetlands. So, there definitely is a benefit to having an IA system. There's no doubt about that. But it's just a tough site to work in. And the other thing, they do have a health department approval. But for some reason, no grading has been shown on how they're going to actually install this system. The profile that was provided on the health department plans showed an elevation of 7 feet over the sanitary leaching pools. Now, health department requires that the slope from the edge of the leaching pools for a distance of 20 feet does not exceed 5%.
Right.
So it just seems it's going to be tricky to get that sanitary system in there. I think a little bit more information would be needed. It would be nice to have some grading, a grading plan, see how that's going to be shoehorned in there. So anyway, that's one of the major questions that I have as far as this goes.
And the road elevation's at 11 feet, and obviously the creek would be 0. And I see the FEMA flood zones were put on the plan, but I don't see any topographic information, which would help us and which will be needed to develop a grading plan. The other thing, the health department typically requires leaching pools to be 100 feet back. And here they're 13 feet.
Yeah.
They require 150-foot separation between well and sanitary system. And here they're 108 feet. Was there a variance that went through? And maybe Matt can answer this one for us. Was there a variance?
Yeah, we got a variance. We got a variance for this. The biggest thing here is the existing system is basically in groundwater and it's absurdly undersized. So, basically it turned into a far from perfect, but much better than the status quo scenario. That's what the health department and the DEC basically ended up agreeing on.
Did the health department put any conditions on this? Is there something like you could share us the variance?
Yeah,
variance
I'll get
paperwork?
I'll get you that information. Yeah.
Or at least a plan that is there an approved plan that might show some grading in that area?
No, what you've got the approved plan as part of the application package. I've also got some topo with spot elevation, so I can add that to the map. The elevation at the top of that little dock, that landward step, is at a 5-foot elevation, and the house itself is at 11. So, that's where we came up with that 7-foot, was basically, evening out that area between that wood dock and the finished floor of the house.
Yeah,
But I think, I measured the distance between the closest sanitary leaching pool and that 5-foot elevation. And it's less than 20 feet that you're dropping it, you're dropping 2 feet in less than 20.
Well, yeah, and we got a variance because you just can't fit it otherwise. So, the health department, like I said, health department and DEC both agreed that, again, far from perfect, but much better than what's there now.
Okay, if you could provide that additional information from the health department, it would be helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, Matt, so if we get that, then we can set the public hearing next month for March.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'll get that over to you as soon as I can.
Okay. We want to assign.
Oh, yeah, who wants to do this one?
Where are we on the current list?
I'll do it.
Okay.
Okay, as I mentioned, every month we have 2 special permit applications. They're both on hold, 5 Winthrop Road and 1 Pandian Road. Anyone, Lori, do you have any comments for us? Anyone on Zoom have any comments for the planning board? Questions? Okay.
And can we just go back to that wetland application again?
Okay.
I was wondering, and the board was just dealing with the a vegetated buffer.
Oh, is that I have to.
Wait. Joe, you gotta wait for Ian to leave. He has to recuse himself on that one. So one second.
No. This is.
No.
Tesoro?
Tesoro?
Oh.
Oh, sorry. We thought you were talking about the other one.
Nope.
Sorry.
No, that's
Go ahead,
okay.
Joe. Sorry, Joe. Go.
Oh, okay. Anyway, there's a note on the map that says existing vegetation to remain, no new buffer plantings proposed. Well, quite a bit of, we're probably talking about 1,000 square feet in the area of the sanitary system that's going to be disturbed. And, it's got to be replanted in some way. If it's a lawn area now, then maybe it can be something more natural. And the other question that I had to do with the approximate sand area. And Matt, maybe, you can shed some light. What is that?
What is that?
So Matt, on your site plan, there's this sandy area with a ring in the middle of it. Do you explain?
It's just as it sounds. It's, someone at some point had brought in some sand and made a little sand, like, call it a sandbox without borders, if you want to. It's basically just an area where they brought in sand so they could put their toes in the sand and put a little fire in a fire pit and hang out. That's basically what it is.
The cat box.
Yeah, it's,
Deer box.
Because Joe mentioned it's not on Hemmer's survey, and so I was wondering if it's new. But you're calling it as existing.
Yeah,
But
I'd
I'm
have to look at aerial photos and see when it went in. I'm not, off the top of my head, I don't know whether that went in when the survey was done or not.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's only about 3 feet off of the wetlands.
Yeah. Yep.
So I guess we'll need some kind of landscaping plan, a little more definition. That could be part of your grading plan to say
Yeah,
what's
absolutely.
going back, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That sounds good. Thanks.
Okay. All right, so I make a motion to end the January 16th planning board meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
I guess so.
I just got to